Vivekananda, Chapter 3, the Chapter of Powers. We have now done to the chapter which is called the chapter. We have now come to the chapter which is called the Chapter of Powers. Number 1. Dharana is holding the mind onto some particular object. Dharana, concentration is when the mind holds onto some object, either in the body or outside the body, and keeps itself in that state. An unbroken flow of knowledge to that object is dhyana. The number 2 point says the mind tries to think of one object to heal itself to one particular spot as the top of the head, the heart, etc. And if the mind succeeds in receiving the sensations only through that part of the body and through no other part, that would be dharana. And when the mind succeeds in keeping itself in that state for some time, it is called dhyana meditation. Number 3, when that giving up all forms reflects only the meaning, it is samadhi. That is, when in meditation all forms are given up. Suppose I were meditating on a book and that I have gradually succeeded in concentrating the mind on it and perceiving only the internal sensations, the meaning expressed in any form. The state of dhyana is called samadhi. Number 4. These three, when practiced in regard to one object, is samana. When a man can direct his mind to any particular object and fix it there and then keep it there for a long time, separating the object from the internal part, this is samana. Dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, one following the other and making one. The form of the thing has vanished, and only its meaning remains in the mind. By the conquest of that comes light of knowledge. When one has succeeded in making this samana, all powers come under his control. This is the great instrument of the yogi. The object of knowledge are infinite, and they are divided into the grossest and the fine, finer, finest, and so on. The samana should be first applied to gross things, which when you begin to get knowledge of the gross, slowly, by stages, it should be brought to final things that should be employed in stages. This is a note of warning not to attempt to go too fast. There is three aniyar than those that precede. Before these we have the pranayama, the asana, the yama, niyama. These are external parts of these three, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Yet these later even are external to the seedless samadhi. When a man has attained to the him, he may attain to omniscience and omnipresence. But that would not be salvation. These three would not make the mind nirvikalpa, changeless, but would leave the seeds for getting bodies again. Only when the seeds are, as the yogi says, fried, do they lose the possibility of producing for the plants. These powers cannot fry the seed. But even they are external to the seedless samadhi. Compared with that seedless samadhi, therefore, even these are external. We have not yet reached the real samadhi, the highest, but a low stage in which this universe still exists as we see it, and in which we are all these powers. By the suppression of the disturbed modifications of the mind and by the rise of modifications of control, the mind is set to attain the controlling modifications following the controlling powers of the mind. That is to say, in this first state of samadhi, the modifications of the mind have been controlled but not perfectly, because if they were, there would be no modifications. If there is a modification which impels the mind to rush out through the senses and the yogi tries to control it, that very control itself will be a modification. One wave will be checked by another wave, so it will not be real samadhi. When all the waves are subsided, Aka's control itself will be a wave, yet this lower samadhi is very much nearer to the higher samadhi than when the mind comes bubbling out. Its flow becomes steady by habit. The flow of this continuous control of the mind becomes steady when practices day after day. The mind obtains the faculty of constant concentration, taking in all sorts of objects and concentrating upon one object. These two powers being destroyed and manifested respectively, the chitta gets the modification called samadhi. The mind is taking up various objects, running into all sorts of things, and then there is a higher state of the mind when it takes up one object and excludes all the samadhi is the result of that. The one pointedness of the chitta is when it grasps in one the present, the past, and the present. How are we to know that the mind has become concentrated? Because time will vanish. The more time vanishes, the more concentrated we are. In common life, we see that when we are interested in a book, we do not know the time at all, and when we read the book, we are often supposed to find how many hours are passed. All time will have the tendency to come stand in the one present. So the definition is given when the past and present come and stand in one, the more constant the mind. By this is explained the threefold transformations of form, time, and state in fine or gross matter and in the organs. By this the threefold changes in the mind stuff as to form, time, and the state explain the mind stuff is changing into vrittis. This is change as to form. To be able to hold the changes to the present time is change as to time. To be able to make the mind stuff go to the past forms, giving up the present, even in change as to state. The concentration stored in the preceding aphorisms were to give the yogi a voluntary control of the transmission of the mind stuff, which alone will enable him to make the samahana before name. That which is acted upon by transformations, either past, present, or yet to be manifested, is the qualified. That is to say, the qualified is the substance which is being acted upon by time and by the samskaras and getting changed and being manifested all the time. The succession of changes is the cause of manifold evolution.